And just open the email up. Seems like my social media manager is liking the questions from you, Jonathan. Another one from Jonathan. How many years did you spend in the forest, and were you surprised with how much the world had changed when you returned to society? What actually changed about the world between the time you went into the forest and after you came out? What shocked you the most about this new world? Perhaps the technical, let's see if it's, yeah, they were pretty big. Okay, there's a couple of things in there first. Although, you know, it was about 10 years that I spent in the forest. Having said that, I did actually leave the forest on occasions. Sometimes I left to go and barter, get supplies, sell products that I had. So I was in and out, but mostly when I left the forest on those adventures, I was very narrow, I was very critical. I only stayed on the paths that I needed to stay on, and I really didn't explore very much. I think some of the major changes, as you point out, were technology. Computers had advanced a long way from the time that I went into the forest around, circa 1990, and I came out sort of 1999. I think it was November 1999. I exited the forest, so there was quite a few changes, and some of the significant changes. There's been a lot of changes since then too, because when I went into the forest, it was called a state forest. Okay, and when I came out of the forest, it had actually changed, and it was a national park. So that was a pretty big change. Obviously, transport had changed a lot. Politics had changed a lot. The area in which I frequented had transitioned from a mainly hippie, alternate lifestyle kind of community into a big tourist hub, like a major tourist centre. And it appealed to a much higher income bracket as well. So there were a lot of more wealthy people moving into the area, including actors, international actors, buying property up around. So the whole area started to change. The buildings and had changed a lot as well. And I guess I wasn't so focused on what had changed outside of me. I was more focused on what needed to change inside of me. So I was trying to learn to adapt to this new world that I'd really shunned for most of my life. So I'd never really paid that much attention to it, apart from the fact that it hurt me a lot and it caused me a lot of pain, and it continuously inflicted this pain upon me. And I understand today that was just the way I interpreted it. That was my experience at the time. In reality, the pain that was being inflicted on me was my non-acceptance, or my inability to accept the way the communities and society was around me. I mistakenly thought that I was the only person in the whole world that actually understood the way things should be. So there was that was a big change for me. There was that transitioning change as well. I think that what I did notice a lot was a lot of land clearing that was happening around where I was, and I really, like when I went into the forest, there was it's like the old 2-lane highway. There were a lot of the 2-lane highways, but when I came out of the forest, all of a sudden there were these great big motorways. And I remember, I just had a thought then. And I remember thinking, there's lots of shiny cars around. What happened to all the old dented sort of old cars that people kept for a long time? They were going and people were buying new cars, updating new cars. I guess that leads me into consumerism. Consumerism had advanced a lot while I was in the forest, and that's one of the big things that shocked me, how the quality of something had dropped, the manufacturing quality of something had dropped, and things were made a lot cheaper and therefore more disposable. That really did strike me as a big one. Takeaway food was another one. Not that I ate a lot of takeaway food, but there just seemed to be so many takeaway places. Because, and remembering that once I came out of the forest and I had my epiphany, and, I started to establish little trails around Tweed Heads and the Gold Coast in sort of that border area from Queensland to New South Wales, from Byron Bay up to about Brisbane. So, and I'd transit there, and I'd transit up through there because there were a lot of soup kitchens. You could get a free feed, and it struck me that travel was so cheap as well. So travel had changed. That whole process of public transport had changed until you got out of the city, out of the metropolitan areas a little bit. So there was a lot of change, obviously fashion, but I guess the biggest change, like I said, was in me, and that's what needed to happen, that massive change inside of me.